Tell me, dear prince, will you give in to the darkness? What's up, guys? Alphonse here, and here we are to do a breakdown and discussion on whether or not Prince Tristan Leonis of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse should master or begin to delve into the darkness even further over the course of the 2-year time skip of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. We got a decent little hefty chunk of stuff to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? Alphonse here. Fun fact, I do have a pencil, and another fun fact, I do have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, Tristan happens to have it on him and keep it on him at all times, except he does it times 2. But joke's on him, I do it too. So with that being the case, there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions being raised with the characters of Four Knights of the Apocalypse now that we've had a 2-year time skip. With time skips in fiction in general, typically you expect characters to get more powerful, more experienced, obviously older, get redesigns, all that. But of course, getting more powerful, getting stronger, getting redesigned, and especially character shifts that happen over a 2-year time skip, they can vary drastically from character to character. And honestly, Seven Deadly Sins is one of the most exemplary versions of that, because it has one of the most diverse power sets, but really power paths for each character that can be explored within the narrative. Of course, you have beings like Lancelot, who knows, may have been able to start getting some wings. You have Gawain, who may or may not have been storing up sun energy so they can get extra big and bulky when they go to use their abilities next time. You could have Percy. The man hasn't aged to the day, because, he's stuck at 16 forever. I see as a life spirit, but that's separate. And then, of course, you have the rest of the cast who are just pure humans. But the most interesting path to me, because of the diversity that could come with it, is Tristan Leonis, the child of the Dragonson of Wrath, Meliodas, the king of Leonis, and the child of the granddaughter of the supreme deity, the child of the daughter of the supreme deity incarnated into human flesh, Elizabeth Leonis. Tristan. And here's the thing, right? With the 2-year time skip, once again, there's going to be power progression. There's going to be growth. I don't think it's reasonable to assume that Tristan is going to be the same him that he was pre-2-year time skip. That's just not how you do time skips. You typically do not either flatline or stagnate a character or regress a character over a time skip period. You usually make them stronger. But unlike a lot of other characters who have much more character-based journeys that overall interlap and intertwine with other characters that can kind of go on pause for power progression on a 2-year break, I'm thinking of your Donnies, I'm thinking of your Nasines, I'm thinking of your Ans, I'm thinking of the rest of the Tristan platoon. They can have their own power growth completely independent of their character arcs. Tristan's main character arc, at least in my opinion, is that journey of self-acceptance, that journey of self-discovery, that journey of self-evaluation. And his power growth naturally directly ties into that, in a very similar vein to his father in the series past. Meliodas' rage was a strong source of power in the original series, but of course, that rage came with a deep, everlasting darkness. So naturally, the question becomes, well, what does Tristan now need to do over the course of this 2-year time skip? Oh, well, we have an easy path, don't we? We know he's already quite adept with his goddess abilities. He even has some sort of understanding of the darkness. But we see, as recently as right before the end of part 1, Tristan seems to be struggling with the shade, the shadow, the darkness within his soul. Unfortunately, he has not been ordered yet, but don't worry, we'll get him eventually. But with that being the case, 2 years seems like a perfect time for him to train his darkness powers, right? Especially considering we very explicitly did not do that in the Demon World arc. The Demon World arc was kind of tiptoeing towards the path of self-acceptance for Tristan. We get the entire battle of Gawain and him against the Testament Beast to fill in that whole idea of self-acceptance, growth, and discovery and all that beautiful, amazing, giggly gook. But here's my thing, right? I kind of want to see it. And that's the only reason I'm hesitant about Tristan mastering, developing, or growing any of his demonic powers over this 2-year time skip, because once again, this is kind of his entire journey. Obviously, there's other aspects of his journey that kind of also relate to power, but obviously his inferiority complex, his imposter syndrome, being the child of the legendary heroes. Obviously, there's even more that goes into that, but I still think one of the main things of his arc that we kind of need to see develop gradually over time is, well, his power. Because his power is directly tied into his darkness and his demonic side. And his demonic side is directly tied into his identity crisis. And his identity crisis is directly intertwined to his entire character. So the thing that Tristan suffers from, at least in my opinion, in comparison especially to his fellow conglomerates, he's not like a company, but his fellow characters, is the fact that unlike everyone else who can just have that uptick in power growth without having to worry about like, oh, I'm going to accidentally off-screen a lot of my character arc. If Tristan gets any sort of major power growth that's like directly tied into his demonic side, that's stuff we're just missing. Completely missing. And the thing is, Nakaba, at least from my loose understanding of how he's maintained the world up to this point, post-time skip, I mean, we only have, what, like 3 chapters of the time skip so far, so it's not entirely set in stone how much of the world is actually as feasibly solid as I think it is. But presumably, Meliodas hasn't been sealed yet. Zeldris hasn't been sealed yet. The Demon Clan is still running about doing their darn thing. And with Tristan's already sort of natural acceptance of his goddess side and his willingness to use that a lot more than his demon side, I think it would kind of do us a disservice to his character to kind of just buff his goddess side off screen. Actually, no. You can do the goddess side. I said that wrong. To buff his demon side off screen. Because, once again, this goes into the whole idea of Tristan's self-development and his understanding of himself and how it deals with it. However, the reason I'm still so mixed is because I'm not exactly sure if we need to see it. Because I feel like it's purposeful that Nakaba dropped us in the demon world, gave us Tristan's biological uncle in Zeldris, had us set up a whole week of training with this group and gaggle of demons in the demon world, and had Tristan learn absolutely nothing. Like, doesn't that feel purposeful? Like, nothing was established. Not a single thing. We got, like, 3 interactions between Tristan and Zeldris. That's it. There was no training of Demon Mark, no training of Darkness powers, none of that. Like I said, a majority of Tristan's self-acceptance development came in the fight against the Testament Beast with Gawain. But even then, that wasn't truly a development of his darkness powers. It was a development of the merger of both of his abilities. The light and the darkness. The twilight, if you will. Sorry. My brain immediately went to, like, the vampires that glow. But with that being the case, that makes me wonder, which way do we walk down? Because with 2 years, you do have to make Tristan stronger. That is kind of a law of nature. You do have to make him more powerful. But A, how much more powerful do you make him? And B, how do you make him more powerful? Do you double down on the goddess side, on the holy light, on the purity that exists within his soul, and essentially just make him even more goddess-centric? Essentially kind of ignore the demon side, if anything, put on pause, hit pause on that, and then let us explore that journey more and more and more with us actively involved with the character? Or do you go down path B, where you do just evolve the demon side off screen and you make Tristan's journey less about the self-acceptance of both of his sides, or the less about the self-acceptance of his demon side despite their history and the negativity that he has associated with them in his own past, with obviously his rampage giving Lance his scar, and rather you allow him to develop that off-screen with Mel or Zell or on his own, and then he comes back, oh, the mightier, but then we refocus his journey entirely on the merger of those two sides. And honestly, I'm fine with both, and it's hard for me to tell which one I would rather see more. For Path A, the benefits of Path A is that we don't get to skip out on any of his character development, any of his darkness development. In my opinion, darkness is one of the most interesting elements that gets introduced in Seven Deadly Sins, especially considering how uniquely it's used in comparison to a lot of other series, and seeing Tristan develop that more and more and more on panel would be more interesting to me than him just coming back, oh, he's been sitting in Demon Mark for the past 2 years. Oh, he's just way stronger. And oh, he's mastered the darkness powers. I mean, okay. Like, I wouldn't get mad at it too much. Like, sure. My favorite points of Tristan up to this point in the narrative are when admittedly, he was in Demon Mark, and that is pretty shallow of me because, like, I just thought he was cool. Like, I knew it was an unhealthy state for him. But hey, a little bit of unhealthiness went a long way in terms of me liking his character. In my opinion, despite all Tristan's development that's come post that, he's low-key kind of peaked since Demon Mark. So seeing him more comfortable with his demonic side post the time skip, seeing him more powerful with the demonic side post time skip, seeing him whip out new abilities, extra abilities, evolving previous abilities, becoming a little bit more ruthless, a little bit more heartless, a little bit more like his father, especially 3,000 years past variation of his father. It sounds interesting. It sounds nice. It's almost tickling my toes in terms of how cool it would be to see. But at the same time, it would kind of, I wouldn't say it'd be retreading the journey of Meliodas in the original series. Especially considering Nakaba is, once again, he's been consistently, I forget the most recent interview he talked about it, but I think even up to like, as soon as 3 months ago, he's been mentioning, you do not need to read Seven Deadly Sins in order to get the full experience of Four Nights of the Apocalypse. So Nakaba's very specifically pushing this whole idea that, hey, you kind of don't want to need the prequel. In fact, you can read the prequel later after the fact and maybe get retroactive appreciation for Four Nights. So does the retread matter? Because Meliodas, I think it's pretty hard to argue that he's not the main character of the original series. You can kind of say it's him and Elizabeth, but like female lead, male lead. And with that, the journey of darkness and self-acceptance and understanding the darkness and giving into one's true nature is kind of Mel's whole journey in the original series, for the most part. Obviously, it's the whole journey about him breaking free of the curse between him and Elizabeth and stuff with the deity and stuff like that. But if you were to break it down to its more core fundamentals, it is Meliodas accepting the darkness within his heart. That's a major part in early season 2 when he gets his sealed away powers back, the ones that Merlin took away right after the fall of the sins way back. Pre-time skip, well, but that before series time skip, before the 16-year time skip and the sins are outcasted as evil doers, you have that whole journey. Then obviously you have Mel giving further and further into the darkness. Then you get the assault mode arc. Then you get the true magic arc. Mel's journey has very specifically been about self-acceptance of darkness. And with that being the case, if I am worrying about the original series and not wanting to retread it all too much, then I do go down option B. I just give Tristan Demon Mark. And especially considering you can definitely argue the reason we went to the Demon Lord arc and got none of the Zal interaction and none of the Demon Mark training is because all that was being saved to be off screen, so it didn't feel redundant. And then we just take the path of making Tristan focus on properly combining the two sides, fusing them together into something that we admittedly kind of haven't seen before. The thing with Twilight in Seven Deadly Sins is that it's kind of like inherently wrong. Like, realize the only Twilight creatures that we've seen outside of Tristan, the singular Nephilim, are that ugly thing Melascula produced earlier in Four Nights that Tristan happened to beat, and also Chaos / Kath / Chaos King Arthur. Those are the only Twilight beings we've ever met. And obviously they have massive, deep, crazy implications in and of themselves. We still don't know how Arthur's legally functioning with, you know, the living contradiction and the embodiment of chaos sealed inside his heart and soul. So seeing Tristan focus on that journey wouldn't only just be unique because we have never seen it before. Even Arthur's journey has been entirely off-screen since the original series. And Chaos is, I'm not going to say an out-of-nowhere introduction to the original series, but like, despite being hinted at earlier on in the manga, Chaos and the journey of it in of itself isn't really focused on too much. So Tristan getting an entirely new journey post-time skip, well, not entirely new, because it's once again hinted at pre-time skip, but getting a journey that focuses on the Twilight, focuses on the Twilight development, focuses on him having both sides pretty much to a high level and just struggling to merge them would be interesting and would follow up based on the previous things that happened pre-time skip, like the whole battle with Gawain, like his consistent switching, like his hybrid forms, like all of that. So I find myself caught in the middle, because I'll be real, the main reason, forget all the character stuff, forget all the writing stuff, forget all that. The main reason I don't want Tristan to master Demon Mark and stuff off screen in this 2-year time skip is because I want to see Tristan do it with his uncle and his dad. That's the main thing. That's the biased Seven Deadly Sins fan in me, where it's like, darn, wouldn't it be so cool to see Mel and Zell training him? Wouldn't it be so cool to see a young demon actually get trained? Because unfortunately in the original series, and I know I keep referencing the original series when talking about Four Nights, something that Nakaba very explicitly doesn't want people to do, but shock horror, you released a very popular prequel. Now I'm going to want to reference it when we're talking about the sequel. we never get much of young demon culture. We don't know how demons were trained with their demon marks and stuff like that. We know they're inherently destructive to a certain degree. We never get to see that destructiveness get tamed. We don't get too many interactions. And once again, it's a sequel series. No matter what, you can chalk Seven Deadly Sins up to a prequel, which it is at this point. Four Nights is very definitively the sequel to Seven Deadly Sins. But like, the benefits of having a prequel is that you have older series characters that can deal with newer series characters, and we have two examples. Unlike something like Tristan's Goddess side, which is already a much more accepted side ever since Tristan's introduction, and something he's been way more comfortable with, consistently going into, consistently using, and all that. The demon side is not only something that he's feared, as we get context for in Grid of Edinburgh for what? A majority of his life. I forget when the spar between him and Lance is, when he gives Lance the scar, is. I think they're like 10 or 6, I'm not sure. Those two numbers are flitting in my head. With that being the case, I know the demonic side's been traumatizing. It's been evil, it's been dark. And I think that's another reason I kind of don't want to see it off screen, but the main reason is because I want to see Mel and Zeldria. I want to see some more of that tough love from the parent and the uncle. Because I'll admit, for a sequel series, we've gotten very minimal interaction between the kids and their parents, especially considering only 2 of the 4 nights actually get to benefit from the sequel series promise. Because, I'll be real, I like Percy, and I like Gawain. I really, really do. But they have no ties to the original series outside of super vague implications for Gawain and none for Percy. Percy's a nowhere near. You can literally tell based on the fact that Tristan was meant to be the main character for 4 nights, but Nakaba changed his mind in pre-production. Percy just doesn't exist in the original series. I cannot find a single hint to that man or Varghese or Ironside or that entire plotline in the original series. And with that, 2 of our 4 main characters, 2 of our 4 titular characters don't get to benefit from sequel syndrome. Syndrome sounds so bad though. It's not like it's a bad thing to be a sequel. But 2 of our 4 titular characters don't get to benefit from it. One of our other titular characters is already so powerful that I don't think it's reasonable to assume that his fodder behind mother and his super strong, but maybe weaker than him dad, are really going to be able to do anything to him training-wise. And then that just leaves one man who could benefit from the utilization of the previous characters because he's just not that guy yet. And that would be Tristan. So if we sack all that, if we throw all the demon stuff to the side, and we do that all off screen, we can't get that. Like, legit, there's no, I hate to say this, but outside of being goalposts to reach and or people to seal away or get rid of eventually, Mel and Zell serve no purpose. That's the thing. We can use them, right? We can probably get a battle or 2 out of them, but in terms of utilizing their roles properly as predecessors to Tristan, who understand the darkness better than anyone else, Zell being arguably, Trillion Dark kind of clears anything Zell does now, but up until Trillion Dark, Zell arguably being the best darkness user in the entire verse with his innate magic Ominous Nebula, and Mal being one of the better darkness users in the verse, if not clearly the best darkness user now with things like Trillion Dark. Seeing them train Tristan, especially a Tristan who has been, affected by the loss of numerous comrades at this point. First it was Jade, and then not a week later, he lost Percy. Seeing Tristan channel all that negativity, all that hatred, all that anger into the darkness that exists within his very core, his very soul, and seeing Meliodas and Zeldris work together to harness that darkness and prepare for the worst as they realize that, heck, even with one of the 4 nights gone, they need to lock in and prepare the remaining 3 for the battle that's inevitable of Camelot in the real world. It seems so good. It seems too good on a character front, on a writing front, on a visuals front, to just off-screen it all. And here's the thing, right? You can kind of have the best of both worlds. I'm sorry, I can't sing. But with that being the case, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have Tristan be trained by them off screen and us flash back to it. You can have that. I think we're most likely going down that path. I've kind of been walking and pretending in this video that there's just this binary path. Either we have Tristan get the darkness powers on screen or we don't. We can have both. And I think it'd be more necessary to have both at this point. Especially since I don't actually know how long Four Knights is going to be. I would like to assume it's going to be the same length as the original series, and with our cast only being 18, but Guinevere hinting at a point where Lance is much older than 18. I believe he's mostly like in his mid-20s or so when something ends up happening. No, because Guinevere lives up till 70. So like there's definitely later points in time that have been mentioned. So who knows how long Four Knights is going to be, but considering how many character journeys we have to cover, considering how much time we have to cover, considering we went out of our way to do a time skip, and we already went out of our way to skip over a lot of hypothetical demon development when the layup seemed right there, I can see Nakaba walking down a path where he gives Tristan the darkness control. He lets Tristan focus more on the Twilight path, the road unwalked, essentially. The Twilight road to dawn, if you will. And ultimately, we at best get a flashback or two here, or a flashback chapter about Tristan's training. I'd be down with it, even if I'd want a bit more. So overall, to summarize, what do I want from Tristan post-time skip? I do want him to be stronger, but I don't want a majority of his character arc to be skipped off screen, and I want his father and uncles to be involved somehow in his rearing and increase of power. That's all I want. If I can get one of those three things, I'll be happy. But that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave the Twilight Prince in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching once again. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Now, I would like to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, so Connor Plays, Redwell 4765, and Greyhound. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. I'd like to give a donga thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchio, Joaquin, Idem Okami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a thicker than a snicker thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another thicker than a frozen jar of peanut butter thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.